Meet Mint. Mint operates in a brilliantly lit, highly vibrant workspace. His environment is crisp, modern, and bathed in bright, energizing light. He is an architect in training, building automated AI wealth systems and structuring global digital assets. He is incredibly smart. He understands cash flow. He understands leverage. But at 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, Mint's phone vibrates on his perfectly organized white desk. He picks it up. He looks at the screen. A prompt appears for a new piece of software, a sleek new visual asset pack he saw advertised on a high-performing short-form video. It costs $149. Mint doesn't pull out a leather wallet. He doesn't count out physical bills. He doesn't even type in a 16-digit credit card number. He simply looks at his phone. The biometric scanner reads his face. He double-clicks the side button. Ping! A bright green checkmark bursts onto the screen. A pleasing, high-pitched chime plays through the speakers. In less than 1.4 seconds, $149 has vanished from his net worth. Mint smiles. He actually feels a rush of pleasure. He puts the phone down and goes back to work, completely unaware that his brain has just been violently hacked. To understand why Mint is secretly bleeding capital despite his high income, we have to look inside the scanner. We have to look at the neuroscience of the swipe. For millions of years, human biology was programmed for physical scarcity. When a human being physically hands over a paper bill to pay for something, the insula lights up exactly the same way it does when they experience physical pain. Psychologists call this the pain of paying. It is a biological friction mechanism. When you buy something with physical cash, your brain forces you to experience a microdose of physical agony. It is your biology's way of saying, "Are you sure this is worth the loss of our survival resources?" This pain is what used to keep the middle class out of debt. But what happened when the researchers had the subjects pay with a credit card instead of cash? The insula went completely dark. The pain vanished. Because a piece of plastic doesn't feel like a survival resource. Now, fast forward to today. The credit card wasn't frictionless enough for the tech giants. You still had to carry a wallet. You still had to physically hand the card to a cashier. You still had to sign a receipt. So Apple, Google, and Amazon went to war against friction. They digitized the currency. They hid the numbers. They removed the wallet. They tied the transaction to the most effortless, subconscious actions a human can take: looking at a screen and double-clicking a button. When Mint double-clicked his iPhone to spend $149, his insula didn't just stay dark. The part of his brain responsible for reward lit up with a massive hit of dopamine. The tech giants have successfully inverted human biology. They took the biological pain of losing resources and replaced it with the exact same dopamine loop you get from playing a video game. To Mint's primal brain, Apple Pay doesn't feel like spending money. It feels like leveling up. It feels like a high score. This gamification of spending is exactly how intelligent, high-income earners find themselves trapped in a cycle of lifestyle creep. But the frictionless trap has a second, even more dangerous layer. It is called the Autopay hemorrhage. Let's look at Mint's financial architecture. Because his environment is focused on building digital wealth, he relies heavily on software. Mint has a $20 per month subscription for an AI scriptwriter. He has a $35 per month subscription for a high-end video editing cloud server. He has a $15 per month music licensing fee. Add in Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, a meal delivery kit, and a premium gym membership. Mint has 18 different subscriptions tied to his Apple Pay and his digital wallet. The genius of the subscription model is that it removes the purchasing decision entirely. If Netflix had to knock on Mint's bright, illuminated front door every single month and ask him to physically hand them $20 in cash, Mint would eventually look at the bill and say, "You know what? I haven't watched anything good on here in 3 weeks. No thanks." He would experience the pain of paying, evaluate the return on investment, and cancel the service. Autopay bypasses the conscious brain. It operates in the background, quietly siphoning capital while Mint is sleeping. The corporations know that human beings are fundamentally lazy. They know that if it takes 5 clicks to cancel a subscription, but 0 clicks to keep it, 90% of people will just let it run. Mint is a highly optimized digital entrepreneur, yet he is bleeding thousands of dollars a year to services he barely uses, simply because the friction to cancel is higher than the friction to pay. He is treating his money like an infinite digital resource in a video game, not realizing that every dollar siphoned away is a brick stolen from the foundation of his actual wealth machine. It is 10 a.m. on a Thursday. Mint is sitting in his brightly lit studio, staring at his banking dashboard on a massive 4K monitor. The UI is beautiful. The colors are vibrant, but the numbers are wrong. Despite operating in high RPM niches and generating substantial revenue from his AI channels, his capital reserves are stagnant. Mint pulls up his transaction history. He sees the endless, scrolling list of Apple Pay microtransactions. $4 here for a coffee, $19 there for a random SaaS tool he forgot he subscribed to, $80 for a digital course he never opened. None of it hurt when he bought it, but looking at the aggregate data, the pain suddenly hits him all at once. Mint has a profound epiphany. He realizes that the entire global economy is currently divided into two groups of people. The first group is the consumers. Their lives are entirely frictionless. Everything they want is one double click away. Their dopamine is constantly spiked, their insula is completely suppressed, and their capital is being harvested with absolute efficiency. The second group is the architects. The architects are the ones building the frictionless systems. They are the ones putting the Apple Pay buttons on their high-converting landing pages. They are the ones setting up the recurring subscription models. They are the ones farming the dopamine of the global audience. Mint realizes he is playing on the wrong side of the board. He is trying to build an empire, but he is acting like a consumer. He is allowing his own treasury to be looted by the very psychological exploits he is supposed to be mastering. If Mint wants to achieve absolute financial velocity, he cannot just increase his income. He has to patch the biological exploit. He has to voluntarily reintroduce pain back into his life. The protocol of friction. To escape the frictionless trap, Mint doesn't need to live in a cave or cut up his credit cards. He just needs to aggressively engineer his environment. He needs to put the casino chips away and start dealing in raw capital. Here is the exact three-step protocol Mint uses to completely rewire his dopamine and defend his treasury. Step 1. De-weaponizing the device. The first thing Mint does is pick up his smartphone. He opens the settings, he goes into his digital wallet, and he deletes his primary credit card from Apple Pay. He doesn't delete it for business expenses, but he completely removes it from his biometric quick pay options.
The next time Mint is standing in a premium coffee shop, bathed in bright, aesthetic lighting, he can no longer just look at his phone to pay. He has to physically reach into his pocket. He has to pull out a physical piece of plastic. He has to insert the chip. He has to wait. He has intentionally introduced a 10-second wall of friction into every single transaction. By forcing himself to take physical action, Mint gives his prefrontal cortex, the logical, reasoning part of his brain, just enough time to wake up and ask, wait, do we actually need this? He breaks the gamified dopamine loop. He forces his brain to acknowledge that a transaction is occurring in the real world, not in a video game. Step 2. The 72-hour treasury wall. Next, Mint addresses the impulse purchases. Because his environment is highly visual and brightly stimulated, he is constantly targeted by highly optimized advertisements for new tech, new software, and new assets. Mint establishes a hard, unbreakable rule in his architecture: the 72-hour wall. Whenever Mint sees a non-essential digital product, a new piece of hardware, or a luxury item he wants to buy, he is not allowed to say no. Saying no creates a feeling of deprivation. Instead, he says, yes, but in 72 hours. He takes the link to the item and he places it in a specific digital folder on his bright desktop. Then he closes the tab. If, after 3 full days, the logical part of his brain still determines that the asset will generate a positive return on investment, he is allowed to buy it. But 95% of the time, the dopamine spike fades within 20 minutes. By the time the 72 hours are up, Mint looks at the folder and laughs. He realizes he didn't actually want the item. His brain just wanted the dopamine hit of the double click. The 72-hour wall completely neutralizes the tech industry's reliance on impulse. Step 3. Flipping the API. This is the most crucial step. This is where Mint transitions from consumer to architect. Once Mint has defended his own capital by reintroducing friction, he turns his attention outward to the global market. He looks at his AI wealth automation systems, he looks at his YouTube channels, his digital products, and his high RPM funnels. Mint ensures that for his audience, his systems are utterly frictionless. He integrates one-click payments into his storefronts. He optimizes his video hooks to provide instant dopamine. He builds subscription models for his premium digital communities, allowing the global audience to seamlessly exchange their capital for his value. Mint understands the golden rule of the digital age: protect your own dopamine with extreme friction, but provide frictionless dopamine to the market. 6 months later, Mint is sitting in his brightly lit, visually stunning workspace. The high-key lighting reflects off a flawless, organized desk. He is no longer bleeding capital. Because he removed Apple Pay for his daily expenses, his monthly overhead has dropped by 30%. Because he instituted the 72-hour wall, he has entirely stopped buying digital junk he doesn't need. He took all of the capital that was secretly leaking out of his accounts, and he redirected it entirely into his automated wealth machine. He bought better AI rendering tools. He scaled his distribution network. His phone vibrates on the desk. It isn't a prompt to spend $149 on a visual asset pack. It is a notification from his own automated payment processor. A user halfway across the world just double-clicked the side button on their phone and purchased one of Mint's digital products. Ping. A bright green notification appears. Mint smiles. But this time, it isn't the cheap artificial dopamine of gamified spending. It is the deep, biological satisfaction of a builder who has successfully captured resources. The tech giants built a frictionless casino to drain your capital. They weaponized your own biology against you, turning the pain of loss into the thrill of a video game. If you are double-clicking to consume, you are the mark. You are the liquidity in someone else's empire. But the moment you wake up, reintroduce friction to your spending, and start building frictionless systems for the world, you become the house, and the house always wins. It is time to stop playing the game and start building the casino. Subscribe, flip the script, build the machine. I'll see you at the next level.